everyone. Happy New Year. Thank you again for joining us today. I'm Leo Liemesak from Plan Resources. This is another episode of our chat with the Young Planner winners from PIA, and today I'm joined by Nivet. Nivet is the Victorian PIA Young Planner of the Year for 2024, and I think I've known Nivet for quite a few years, haven't we? We've known each other for a while.
Yes.
But for those who don't know you, please introduce yourself a little bit more. Tell us more about yourself.
Yes, thanks, Leo, and Happy New Year to everyone as well. It's definitely been an interesting start to the year, to say the least. Thank you to Plan Resources for inviting me to this interview. It's really nice to, Leo's been a friend for a long time, so it's nice to always collaborate with him. In terms of my background, so my name is Nivedita Ravindran, and I moved to Australia about 6 years ago for my master's degree in urban design. My background is actually in architecture, so that was my undergrad. And I've been working here since my last semester at Melbourne Uni at Niche Planning Studio. So I'm a senior urban designer here, and I've been here for 4 years now, I think.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we do quite a bit of obviously planning, but my focus is more on urban design, community consultation, and quite a bit of planning as well. So somewhere in between.
Great. So obviously you were the Victorian Young Planner of the Year back in 2024. I think the awards were presented to you in December. Talk me through that day. How did you feel when it was your name that was announced and you came up there to collect the award?
Yeah, so it was great to win the award, obviously, but it was even just really nice to be nominated. Even to be thought of as worthy of receiving the award, it was amazing, and I really appreciate that my team at Niche, felt that way. My co-nominee was Karen, who was also a VYP member at the time, so that was really lovely. It was great to see, two international women on stage as the nominees. It was really nice to be nominated alongside with her. And yes, it was when they said that, the winner's name, that was really nice as well. And the minister gave the award, which was also another bonus. So that was great.
That was great. That's great. So, Nivet, take us back to the beginning, I suppose. What made you decide to study architecture and then eventually becoming an urban designer? And I think if I could push a little bit more from that, is that what then made you decide to move to Australia and start your career here? Tell us all about that.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's the same here, but architecture in India is 5 years, and urban design was a part of that degree. So one of the semesters there, we have urban design. So that's how I was introduced to it. But before that, even to choose architecture, it was really something that happened as a process of elimination. I knew that I didn't want to do engineering or medicine or anything like that. And I knew that I wanted something creative to be part of my, professional career. And architecture seemed like the perfect way to do a bit of everything. It was a really good degree. 1 year of that degree was working. So I worked as an architect and interior designer for a year. And I also got that urban design experience as part of that, which was kind of what propelled me to choose that for my master's.
Yep.
And moving to Australia, again, even before architecture, it's always been a dream of mine. So I knew that coming here was something that I wanted to do. So I, looked for the best university, and the rest is history. That's really, kind of how I got into this field. And was that your question? Was there another part to it?
The other question was, I suppose, what then made you decide to move from India to Australia and to start your career here?
So it's kind of not related to my career, but like I kind of wanted to move to Australia because my uncle lives here, and he moved
Okay.
here for his master's about 20 years ago, I guess. So I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that looks like an amazing place, and somehow it just stuck in my head.
Yeah.
We always have these strange ways in which we pick something that changes the rest of our life. And I
Hmm.
guess that's what did it for me. Um, that's how it started anyway. And then the more I looked into it, the more it fit in with, um, you know, things I believe in, the way I want life to be, quality of life, people's mindsets, safety, women's rights, um, all of these things like housing quality, environment, and I just found all Australia ticked all those boxes for me.
Hmm.
And I know that they're quite welcoming of other cultures. And I had friends and colleagues that I reached out to before I moved here to check if, they're
Hmm.
having a good experience. And it was all great. So I felt it was the right move.
Wonderful. Um, and then when you obviously complete your degree and you start working here, this is going to be another couple of prompt questions, I suppose. First one would be, is being an urban designer turns out to be what you thought it was going to be? And then second of all, you've done this for quite a few years now. And I think what I want to ask you is, what was the most rewarding part of being an urban designer for you so far? Like, what is it that you feel like, whether it was a key achievement or a really cool project that you've worked on that you feel has really touched you on a personal level?
Mm. That's a good question. The first one, especially where, if it is what I thought it was going to be, probably not, especially
Hmm.
when you compare it with university. The kind of
Hmm.
projects we do at uni are completely different to what's actually on ground.
Yeah.
It's very up in the air. There's no constraints like budgets or clients or
Right. Yep.
government funding, or you don't have to think about all that. You just make what you want and hope that professors like it.
Hmm.
So that's quite different. But I did get to work a couple of years before I moved here, so that kind of grounded me in reality in terms of architecture, as well as urban design. So one of the projects I worked on back in India was designing a new capital city for a new state in India, for
Hmm.
example. So that
Hmm.
was like, obviously, it sounds like a huge project, but we were able to break it down into smaller parts and actually find out um, what's necessary to make that a reality.
Hmm.
So things like that really help kind of ground my experience. And here, the things we work on are very client facing, and we
Hmm.
work for the both public and private sector.
Hmm.
And the things that motivate both of them are quite different. So
Okay.
it was really great to understand the factors that influence the decisions that they make, and always try and push for the right thing to do, really,
Hmm.
in every project that we do, even if that might not always be the end goal.
Hmm.
It's good to push where we can to help others do better in their own projects,
Yeah.
do something different. And especially urban design, I think it's in a unique position where it's really at the nexus of so many different types of influences, and not
Hmm.
just architecture, landscape, and planning, but also politics and
Yeah.
culture and migration, like environment. All of these things affect what we do in this field, and I really, really enjoy being in the middle of that.
Hmm.
Things like what's happening on the other side of the world affects what we do here, for example,
Yeah.
or economic realities. So yeah, I really enjoy bringing all that together into my job.
Great, great. Sorry, I had to touch a little something earlier on my
No, that's
screen.
fine.
Um, the next question I probably want to ask you would be, you're a young planner. I think, what do you think are the challenges? Oh, sorry, urban designer as well. But what do you think are the challenges young people in your profession are facing these days? What are the key topics that young people talk about? And if you think that there may be, I suppose, what do you think would be the solutions, or where we can go from there? From with what you know now.
Hmm. This question, it's asked a lot, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
We are consulted quite a bit on issues that affect us. Yes, we know the usual stuff. There's housing affordability, the climate crisis, inclusivity, and all these things. And definitely, young people, I feel, are at a much better position now than we were many years ago, maybe one
Mm-hmm.
generation ago. So we are
Mm-hmm.
getting those seats at those tables, and we are being invited to speak to the people who actually make the decisions, and that's great. Like it's taken a long time to get here.
Yep.
Um, but like we still face difficulties in making those goals a reality.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yes, the first step is listening, but then we need to create action out of that. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that is something that we still face issues with, and that
Mm-hmm.
could be it's still things like underrepresentation of young people on board levels or in the decision making levels. Yes, of course, experience carries its own weight and value. But I think we should be valuing it in a bit more tangible way.
Mm-hmm.
That is the voices of young people, that is. And I think making those into actionable realities is really important.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think, with everything going on in the world right now, it's hard to stay optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
Especially last
Mm-hmm.
year was quite confronting for me, like with, two world wars, economic downturns,
Mm-hmm.
politics, elections. It's really um, it's confronting to think about what's going to happen in the future. But I think we
Mm-hmm.
really need to keep pushing for what we can in our own little circle of influence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You as a young person might be talking to, say, 10 other young people every day, but you're also talking to two or three bigger decision makers every day, and you never know who they get to talk to and who they are influencing as a result of speaking with you, for example. So I think always keep pushing for what you believe in, and yeah, it might look dark and gloomy from where we stand for now. Not a great start to the year, but yeah, we just can't give up hope, I guess.
Um, Correct me if I'm wrong, but you were a part of the, I'm gonna get this name wrong, but was it the Melbourne City of Melbourne Design Review Panel? Is that right?
It's the Design Excellence Advisory Committee.
Great. So if you were saying things about young people should get more involved in that board level or advisory committee, I guess I would mind if you're okay, would you mind sharing like what made you decide to put your hand up for that committee? What happened? I think this could be a great way to share with other young people as to how one would approach these sort of
Mm.
opportunities. Yeah, tell us a bit more about that.
Yes, absolutely. So, DEAC or Design Excellence Advisory Committee is something that I'm a part of as a community member. So, I
Mm-hmm.
used to reside in the city of Melbourne.
Mm-hmm.
So, when the selection process was going on, they were looking for people who were part of that community to
Mm-hmm.
inform the decisions that are happening within that committee. Um,
Okay.
but design excellence as a whole is a movement that that's been started by, I think, a few councils now in Victoria that are
Mm-hmm.
focusing more on not just approving planning outcomes, but also making sure that they hit design targets. And actually, we're creating spaces that people want to spend time in, proud of, and want to create a legacy of, being a great place to live in. So
Yep.
absolutely, I'm going to put my hand up for that. I never thought I would get in. We had to, submit like a few responses to questions that related to our past experience with volunteering and
Mm-hmm.
anything to do with urban design. And somehow I also happened to be an urban designer, so that was great.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it was really amazing to be selected, and
Mm-hmm.
it's my third year on it now, and I believe we have another year to
Wow.
go. Yeah. Um,
Wow.
so
So
yeah, it's been great.
would you say to them to just put your hand up when there's an opportunity, just give it a go?
Absolutely, yes. The same thing I did with the VYP community, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
committee, and as
Mm-hmm.
well as IPN. You
Mm-hmm.
really don't know where you could end up. So, like when I started it, I didn't know that I would stay on for 3 years and,
Mm-hmm.
become convener and plan Congress and all of that. So it's
Yeah.
just say yes to everything. You can figure out how to do it later.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So moving on, we're in a new year. What's your plan? What's your goals? What's this year about for Nivette?
Yeah. So last year, I remember around this time, I was thinking, okay, this is going to be a big year. I just need to get through it. There was a lot going on. So it was really nice to round off the year with the award. So that was
Yeah,
lovely.
yeah.
Um, this year, I think my focus is a bit more targeted.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really focusing on the International Planners Network this year, which
Mm-hmm.
you're
Mm-hmm.
on as
Mm-hmm.
well as a working committee member,
Yeah,
or working group member, I should say. And
yeah.
it's something that I'm really passionate about. And I'm not sure about you, but I have never confronted um, who I am as a person of color
Mm-hmm.
as much as I have within the last 6 years.
Wow,
Like,
that's yeah.
like when you're in India, you're surrounded by other people who look like you. You don't really
Mm-hmm.
think of yourself as different. But
Yep.
when I've moved here, it's in every aspect of your life, like whether you
Yes.
like it or not. Of course,
Yes.
it's mostly positive,
Yes.
but it's definitely not seamless. So I want to try and help make that seamless for people who move here with big dreams.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, like, all of us on the network have similar goals. So, yeah, I really want to focus on that. And even though we just launched a year ago, we've had such amazing response, as you know,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people are finding value in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we'll, have a really good roster of events coming up this year that I want to
Yeah.
get my teeth into,
Yeah.
as well as DEAC. Like I mentioned, I'll be still part of that, and that'll be
Yeah.
really good. We have a few events coming up for M Pavilion, so that'll be nice.
Yep. Oh,
And
great. Yep.
yeah, so I'll be there for that. And I guess I'm looking forward to Darwin, which is the next PIA
Yeah.
Congress.
Yeah. Very exciting.
So there's
Very
a few of us
exciting.
going from the team, so that'll be nice.
That would be very exciting. That
Yeah.
would be very exciting. I guess to go back to what you said earlier about how I've been here a lot longer than you have, I think. I kind of went through the similar, I suppose, finding myself thing in a
Mm,
foreign country a lot earlier on. And it was also pre iPhone, pre social media.
yes.
It was very different, but yet quite the same. And I
Mm,
think I've kind of gotten a bit over it because I've been here for a lot longer. Um, but saying that, as strangely enough, as I got a bit older now, I am finding myself having that similar way you feel like when I go back to Asia,
yeah.
everyone looks like me and I could just be me.
Yes.
And I don't feel like there's a certain expectations or whatnot, or people see me a certain way. Like none of those thoughts
Exactly. Yeah.
come around. But when I come back here, there are some micro moments when so I know exactly what you mean, but I think
Yeah.
it'll get easier with time. And I think we've come to a place that's a lot more polarized now than what it was 20 years
Yep.
ago, where yeah, there are different governments and I think social media plays a big role in that too, in how a
I
young
agree.
person sees the world. And
Yep.
I think that's going to be an interesting topic to talk about. Hey, it could be a topic for IPN. Let's look into
I
that.
know we should.
Well, look, my last question, I suppose, is, you know, do you have a message or do you have some positive words or reinforcements or anything you want to say to the young planners listening to us today?
Yes. So I think, I mean, this is something that has probably been said quite a bit, but it's something that really changed my perspective last year. I went on this course that really looked at challenging things that you think you know, and the way you action what you might perceive as difficult.
Mm-hmm,
And that really is just doing something that's hard every day.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it might be really silly. It might be just picking up the phone and talking to a client. For me, I find that really hard. I prefer emails
Yep, yep.
because I don't know what it is. But yeah, I've been kind of forcing myself, also challenging myself to do that hard thing every day.
Mm-hmm,
Um, that can be in your personal life or in your work life.
Mm-hmm.
And if possible, do it first. Like do that. If you have a to-do list for work, do the hard thing first and get it out of the
Yep.
way. And that can
Yep.
really, the more you do it, the less scary it becomes. So that is something that I've been practicing, and I must say it's really helped.
Yep.
And in terms of, broader aspects of life and thinking and perspectives on the world, again, like I said, it's easy to feel like you don't make a difference, especially as a young person who's just trying to find their way through life.
Mm-hmm.
It's really crazy how when you think about, everything that we go through in our 20s, for example. Um, we're figuring out so many things, and even becoming who we are as a person.
Yep.
Um, but don't forget that, yes, your circle of influence might be small, but you never know what kind of action you might trigger, and what kind of policies that you might change because of something you've said to someone. Or it
Mm-hmm.
might be yourself who might be doing that. So keep believing in the things that matter and stand up for them, because if not us, who will? Um, and I guess we are the future. So we should be creating
Mm-hmm.
places that we love to live in the future. So yeah, keep going with that.
Wonderful. That is a great message. That is a great message. And look, I think with that, we'll wrap this up. So thank you so much. I'm really happy for you. I think it's really great that you are one of an aspiring, I suppose, a future leader. And I think you're going to have a long, bright future ahead of you as an urban designer. So all the best and keep in touch. And then, yeah, I'll see you around.
Thank you so much, Leo. And thank you so much again to Plan Resources for, recognizing young planners. As always, you guys are always at all of our events and always supporting. You've sponsored, I don't know how many young planner events by now. So we really see that and we appreciate it. Thank you. And thanks for inviting me on this as well.
You're
Thanks.
very welcome.